Yo guys, Paunchy here, and today we're going to learn how to load our samples onto our pads on our Analog Rytm MK2. Let's go. Okay, so the way to get to the sample directory is you go to the settings menu, go to samples, hit yes. Okay, we have 3 folders here. First folder is the factory folder. Pretty self-explanatory. Those are all the factory samples that come on your Analog Rytm. The incoming folder, that is specifically for use with the C6 software. We're not going to be going over that today. Keep in mind that's not the same as Elektron transfer. So if you use Elektron transfer to already transfer your samples, you don't even have to worry about the incoming folder. The recorded folder is, of course, the folder where all of your samples that you create through the Analog Rytm, that's where they all go. So we're just going to be messing with factory. Unless you already have some recorded ones that you have ready to go, then you'll go there. But for now, let's just go to factory, hit yes. Now, once again, Elektron, being the amazing people that they are, they've organized all the samples into groups for you. So, you know, of course, you can organize your pads, of course, however you want. If you're going to utilize the default way, then, you know, you're going to want to match these samples up with the pads that you already have set in your kit. You know, of course, I'm talking about how 1 would be used for the bass drum, 2 would be snare drum, 3 is rim shot, 4 is clap, and so on. So say we want, well, before we even get to the individual pads, what we want to do is populate our sample list here. So what I did essentially is go through and choose all the pads that I wanted to, or all the samples that I wanted to use, and I just added them all to the list. So basically I compiled a list of possible samples that I would use in any given project, or for any given kit, really. So keep in mind the sample list is referred to as the RAM, and the RAM can hold 128 samples. So, and that's per project. So keep in mind, every time you make a new project, you're going to have to do this, unless you, you know, do some duplicating stuff, which we could talk about later, or in another video. But for now, all you want to do is just go through each one of these individual folders and just choose samples that you would want, that you think you might use at all. So if you've seen either my Analog 4 video, or if you saw my last video about loading sounds into the analog part of your Analog Rytm, then you'll definitely know what to do here, and it'll be easy. If you haven't seen those videos yet, and I'll link them above, if you haven't seen them, basically you're going to want to go through each one. Let's see. You can press function and yes to preview each sample. So all you're going to want to do, I mean, you can just hold function, just go through. Just go through, audition every single sample, and to choose the ones that you want, you would hit yes. And as you can see, it'll leave a check mark there. So you can select multiple samples at once. Keep in mind, you're going to want to select the samples individually from each folder. Because what I mean is, if you go back here, if you get out of this folder and then you try to go to another folder, the check marks that you made originally will be gone. So you have to choose all the samples you want in each folder, and then once you do that, you check them all, you hit right, and then you hit load to project. And what that will do will load the samples from the plus drive into the RAM. And again, the RAM is for each project, so that way each project can have 128 different samples. So, okay, so once you get all these selected, hit load to project, and you can see these numbers here that I have on the right. You won't have those numbers. The reason those numbers are there is because, again, they're already loaded into my RAM. So that'll tell you exactly which slot each sample is in once you already have them loaded. So I already have all my samples loaded. If you want to view your RAM, you can hit left, go to view RAM, and then this is a complete list of all the samples that you have loaded into your project. So right here are all the samples that to me, have a potential use for any given project. Of course, you can't, by definition, you can't use them all. You know, these are all samples that I might possibly use. You might be able to see this little circle. It looks more like a cross, but it's supposed to be a circle next to the size of the samples. That little circle means that these samples are currently unused in your project. So that's a really good way to kind of keep track of things. You know, if you have multiple kits going, then you know, you'll be able to use more of your samples, of course. So this is everything I have in the in the RAM. And then the circles are the ones that are unused. So if we back out of here, now I can show you what I have going on. Let's go to the bass drum pad number 1. We're going to go to the source section really quick. If you double tap on that, you'll see that I have BD Classic set as the bass drum sound for the analog part of the Analog Rytm. But as you would have learned from my last video about loading the analog sounds into the Analog Rytm, the samples are completely different. And you might be asking yourself, oh, well, what if I just want a classic clap, or, you know, a 909 kick or whatever, you know? That kind of stuff you have to do in the sample section. So that's what we're doing today. So right now, so real quick, in the source menu, I have my bass drum almost all the way up. It's at 113 volume level. So if we go over to sample, you'll see that I have sample 3 loaded, and the volume is only about halfway up. So to get to your RAM list that we were looking at before, just go ahead and hit function and samples. That'll take you right there to your RAM list. Another way to do it is just move this encoder up here, and it'll pull it right up for you. So for sample 3, I have the muffled kick. So what we can do here, I'm going to turn the analog bass drum all the way down, and then I'm going to turn this all the way up, just so we can kind of hear how things are. So right now, what's playing is just the sample. There's no analog bass drum coming through at all in this sound. So this begs the question, how do you blend them? Well, that's a great question, because I'm going to be doing that in another video. But just to introduce you to this really quickly, I'm going to reload here. Bam. You reload the kit by hitting no and play, or no and kit. So right now, this is what my kick sounds like when it's blended. So you can see that, or you can hear rather, that a lot of the low end is coming from the analog part, from the analog bass drum, and then more of the higher end of the bass drum is coming from the sample. And you know, if you're at all familiar with recording, you know, in a DAW, recording acoustic drums or just layering sounds on a DAW in general, you'll begin to see the power of the analog rhythm and the fact that you can blend analog sounds with digital samples so seamlessly, which is definitely the most amazing part about the analog rhythm, is the fact that you can blend both. It truly is an amazing analog drum machine, but it also truly is an amazing digital drum machine that can play samples. And yeah, that's where the power of the analog rhythm comes in for sure. So hope that helps you guys. You know, you're going to want to go through for every single pad and add in your samples for every pad. And then, you know, from there, you kind of just want to blend them to your liking, you know. But again, I'll be making a video really soon about more about the sound design, my process of sound design on the analog rhythm. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell if you want to know when that video is coming out. But yeah, that's how you load samples onto the analog rhythm and or onto the pads specifically. So I hope that helped you guys. Hit like if it did, and I'll see you in the next video.